Hey there, aspiring guitarist. I'm going to tell you about an aha moment that I had quite some time ago. Um, my guitar journey, real quick, y'all have heard it before 5 lessons. Then I was thrust into a folk gospel group. The only lessons I got after that were this was back in 1973. Was through the graciousness of other guitarists that shared things with me. Until later in life, because of a Dupuytren contracture, not being able to play, then getting back into it and making up my mind that my granddaughters and grandsons, even though I taught my sons, um, were not going to go through the things that I wasn't shown. But I had an aha moment a long time ago, and it was a Beatles song. And I want to make sure I give the proper attribution to the song. Now, I don't think this book existed back when I've got had it, but we had several songbooks were a big thing. Sheet music. We didn't have YouTube. Tab didn't even start till later. But we had chords. You had notes. Um, Sometimes you would get sheet music that would show you what to do with a capo. Otherwise, we had to sit there with a chord and transpose the notes. If we were in C and wanted to go to F, then you had to figure C to D to E to half step F and things like that. But that helped us as well in our guitar journey. But one of the things that you found out pretty quick, we'll put this to the side. These are some chords. If you played Beatles songs, they were experts at using chords that had wonderful, beautiful voicings. Now, when you opened up your sheet music, you would immediately just go, "Oh man, no, I don't want, no, 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 no. I'm not doing the minor sus suspended augmented add sevenths. That ain't happening." But I love this song, "The Long and Winding Road." Now, I may show a chord. I'm certainly going to show some here because I want to explain to you what I did. When I started this live, I didn't see a place to attribute if you were playing a song, and I don't want to get in any copyright problems. The very first video I did got flagged for a copyright that I disputed, and I was correct, and I acknowledged that I understood the person that felt like that I was violating their copyright, but I gave my reasons. It was a simple chord progression I'd been making for 52 years. I very respectfully disputed that, and I got back from YouTube that the copyright was dropped, that I was fine because what I said indeed made sense. So I admire YouTube for taking copyright serious. That's the reason there's a link in the description to this book. I didn't write this book, but I can tell you back the sheet music that I have no idea where it came from. That was almost 40 years ago, had these chords in there. And many of these chords, like the B minor chord, you'll notice that B minor chord is a bar chord. Well, many of us are taught how to make the B minor chord another way. And then there's a G/A. Well, that's an F chord slid down. And you would look at stuff like this, and if you jumped in and you tried to play it, let me just let that sit for a second. You see that G/A is on third fret. And then there's a D. You know how to play a D. There's a D7, the G. Now, I didn't play that G. I played a bar chord G, and there's a reason. That's part of the reason I'm doing this, that I played a bar chord G. Because look at that F sharp minor. Okay, then there's the E minor, the A7, the C/D. Notice that C/D is on the 3rd fret. A7 sus4. Most of us could figure that out. The D with an A. That was simply a matter of the root note you played with it, just like the D, F sharp. But things like this were intimidating, and they're still intimidating to a lot of people. Now, we talk about anchoring chords. This is one of my necks. But by the way, while we're here, let's understand something. This light wood part right here, that's the neck of the guitar. But see where I've got the notes and it's dark and you can see the distinctive line it makes. That is actually placed on top of the neck. That's the fretboard. So when someone says guitar neck, that word kind of gets thrown around a lot different ways. This up here is actually the fingerboard, the fretboard. The neck is this, what we wrap around in the back, that we actually get a radius of the curvature of the neck, or maybe there's not a curvature. A lot of classical guitars actually have a flat neck. So the radius, when you see that online, and I'll do a video about that one day. I've actually got StewMac gauges that will show you the radiuses of the neck. And you hear things like a slim taper C, a slim D, a tapered this. Tapering meaning, it's one size up here near the headstock and the nut. Remember, that's the nut where the strings cross over into the fretboard. So a taper means it'll start with one size here and it'll taper to a different size as it moves toward the body. But at any rate, do you remember how lately we've been talking about anchoring notes when you're making chord progressions? For instance, an E minor chord. We know the E minor is in the 2nd fret. It's the 5th and the 4th string. But do we use fingers 1 and 2, or do we use 2 and 3? It depends on what we're going to. So what does this have to do with my Beatles song? Well, I was a teenager and I meant to play that song. And I had pulled out the chords before and tried a B minor, and then I thought, well, now wait a minute. Look at that F sharp minor right after. Hang on a minute. So let's take a look at this. So the B minor, notice the difference between that B minor and the F sharp minor. It is nothing more than a matter of moving fingers 3 and 4, both up one string. Now, many of us were taught to make a B minor by putting the 1st finger, the 2nd fret, 1st string, then go to the 3rd fret and make it like this. But I decided right then, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make a bar chord. And the reason I'm going to make that bar chord is because to make that F sharp minor, the only thing I've got to do is lift this pinky and get it out of the way and lift these up. That was the beginning of me figuring out how to move from one chord to the next. And that's the reason I tell you that I don't necessarily think you should play a chord by throwing everything down. The C chord shape. Boom, throwing it all down at one time. Sometimes you need to, if you're playing an A minor, leave see, I'm on a C note right there. Leave the first finger rooted to go to the C, and then just simply change. So you don't have to lift up every time. Well, that taught me right there, that B minor. And then I went to the F sharp. And then instead of playing the G in an open chord fashion on the long and winding road, I played a bar chord. Well, there was a reason I played a bar chord there too, because the next chord was going to slide this bar chord to the second fret, and it was simply going to lift up that finger. And then the next one was going to be that B minor again. And here I am. I'm still rooted. I'm still anchored. The Beatles were brilliant. And I realize that could start a debate right now. The chord voicings they used were absolutely brilliant. The progressions, and then they would come in there and they would throw in that E minor and then the A7th and then drop that for the sus and then move right over to the D. It was beautiful. Then they'd come in here with that C shape, that would ring out. I'm not going to play it. I'm scared I'm going to get in a copyright thing, but I'll find out about that. Okay, so what's the point of all this? The point of all this is when we tell you to learn in your chord practice, to learn to root chords. In other words, to move from one chord to the next and keep what fingers there you can. And sometimes you got to slow down. I mean, I probably spent 20 minutes as a teenager working out that B minor as a bar chord and going to the G, A. And then I tried to figure out after that, okay, what's the next chord I can do? How should I make the shape to move forward? Should I make an open G chord? Well, it even shows an open G right there. Let me get to it there. There's that open G. But I figured out right quick that the chord that came after that G, a bar chord, made a lot more sense. Practice. That's why it's called practice. I've got a video where I talk about Billy Joel, and I'll never forget. I saw him one night live. It was one of those. It might have been public radio. I don't know what it was, but he was live and he was taking requests. Somebody requested one of the many hit songs he had. He went, yeah, okay. He reached over on the piano and he picked up this pile of sheet music and started going through it. Somebody in the audience said, you don't remember how to play it? And he goes, you make as many songs as I have and you won't remember how to play it either. Sometimes I have to sit down at night and remember how to play my scales. If somebody as wealthy and well-known as Billy Joel has to practice, you have to practice. There's a reason that before a gig, before a live performance, a band goes over things with each other. Now, sometimes you have improvisation. You know, we've had some videos about knowing what chord most likely will come next based on the circle of fifths. And then we had these Nashville numbering fanatics that came rushing in saying I should never teach anybody the circle of fifths. And if you saw what I didn't reinvent the wheel then. I sent you to Marty's Music, which is a great resource, and his video on the Nashville numbering system that has an absolute wonderful place for studio and live musicians that come together and need to use a numbering system to be able to get right down to a chord chart. But there's a place for the Nashville numbering system, and it was not in what we were doing. Guitar pass fit what the need of the guitarist, the band, the song, and what's being played is. You're very seldom going to see me cast something in stone. I may see you playing an E minor and watch you make a chord progression. And I hope to do it with kindness and to show you I'm helping if I know you. I may suggest that you use fingers 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2, only for you to tell me, well, thanks for that, but my first finger doesn't work. I had an accident and there's absolutely no movement in my first finger whatsoever. We do what we have to do. There's a place for different things. You may not be able to make a bar chord yet. Got lots of videos on that bar chord. There's all kind of things you can do on that bar chord, but there comes a point where you've got to slow down. Be willing to not just look at guitar tabs or a book of music or something like that. See a bunch of different chords and just run away. Maybe don't run away. Okay, maybe you're having a bad day, run away. Go ahead, run away. But when you feel like coming back, and I hope that happens because, there are these little plateaus we get over and then we go, aha, and we learn something. So rooting chords, anchoring chords can play a big part in learning to play a song, looking over a song. Remember, I told you the most popular video I've got had the mnemonic PASSED. Play a simple song every day. Have fun with the guitar. Everybody's got a journey, and it means a different thing to different people. And that's my goal with this channel, is to help beginning and intermediate guitarists come out of frustrating parts and have aha moments, and to share resources with you that will help you further. We talk about it all the time. Do you need structured learning? Or do you just need, a little help with a place you're stuck? So sometimes you got to knuckle down, but it's hard to knuckle down if you won't slow down. Think about the chord that you're playing and go into the next chord. Is there another way to play that chord? Remember how many times I've told you, do a Google search. Ways to play a C chord. Ways to play an F chord. Ways to play. Look at the different chord voicings. The way you play a chord can be known as a voicing. It makes the same sound with a different tone, a different pitch. It adds quality to the music. It allows you to play with another guitarist, and one of you play a C chord this way and another play it another way. This is a great book. I realize some people feel different ways about the Beatles. Well, I grew up with the Beatles. I was born in 1960. I had 3 older sisters that played Beatles albums and 45s all day long, especially on the weekend. It was, but the Beatles, if you start studying the Beatles, you will find out that they were actually young men that were brilliant. And their chord voicings were beautiful. They were absolutely beautiful. So it was that song. And what's that song again? The Long and Winding Road, that actually made me sit down and forced me to learn some bar chords and how to go from one to the next. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget, we've got a live coming up tomorrow night, Wednesday, June 5th, 7 p.m. on the A minor pentatonic. It should be in the guitar channel, and if you click on it, you'll see there's a video in there, if you hadn't already seen it, that gives you the introduction to what we're going to cover with the A minor pentatonic. And let me just go ahead and say this right now. Am I an expert on music theory? Oh, good Lord, no. The good Lord has blessed me, I feel, because I still want to learn. And am I Do I know some music and guitar theory? Yes, I do. I even dug way back to years ago to when I pulled out a Mel Bay and a Howell Leonard book because we didn't have YouTube, couldn't afford lessons. I asked other people I played with. But what I hope to try to bring to you, I have studied and I study now. I try to study every day where I see that I stumbled years ago, over 52 years of playing. Wow, if somebody had taken the time to explain to me what a harmonic, a diatonic, this, that scales, that every note has a position. It might be a whole, a flat third, a minor this or that, and that it's a beautiful thing that I can enjoy or I can feel overwhelmed about. Well, I don't want to be overwhelmed. I want to soak it in, and I get confused. But I'm willing to go on. I'm willing to use many of these guitar resources I try to share with y'all. Justin Guitar, True Fire, Den Lopez, some of the other things that I paid for to be able to teach others, my grandkids. I utilize the fret-like guitar. Y'all have seen me use that I taught my sons with. Excuse me, I still think it's a valuable resource. This is about enhancing your journey, and I hope it's a blessed journey. And most of all, happy picking, and thanks for being here.